Hello. Thanks for joining me today. This is Revelation for September. Today is Tuesday, September 13th, and this is the 13th chapter of the Revelation to John. We need to take a break here from the way we've approached the book thus far. We've sort of taken it at face value, saying this is a vision of John that is meant for us, something for us to listen to today, a vision that God imparted to John, and we are just trying to learn what we can from the vision that John shares with the world through the book of Revelation, and that it's God's message to us. We haven't really taken time and pains to navigate the murky world of apocalyptic literature, as in the imminent perusal, which is very evident from what John says several times in the book that he believes, Paul believed the same way, that the end times were upon us. It was very, very near. And of course, this is 2,000 years ago. It's all relative, I suppose, in God's time, but this did not happen within their lifetimes, within their generation, obviously. And so where does this come from, and where is this? Now that we're getting very specific about the negative and harsh images that we see in the vision, I'm going to take a little bit of time and talk about the context in which John felt himself and the possible intentions of him writing this down and giving it to other people. Now, I don't want you to think that this is duplicitous. The thing is, we're dealing with writings that happened before Enlightenment, before the scientific method, before we scrutinize everything that someone says, before modern journalism was a thing. It could still be seen as John saying, this is a vision I got from God, and being totally truthful in that regard, but also having the vision speak directly to the small group of Christians be under persecution in Jerusalem after the Maccabean revolt. Rome came down even harder on the Jews of the day, and the Christians especially. And so there are a lot of scholars, actually most scholars, think that this is John's response to the calamity that he saw in the 70 CE when all this went down with Rome. And then ever since then, in the 20 years between the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem and then when John was writing this, we think around 90 in the Common Era, 90 years after the birth of Christ, that this was a message of encouragement to those Christians. And here is where he doesn't mince words and gets very specific. These images that he still wants to purport as the images of a vision that he received from God of the end times and the beasts. We had the dragon with the 7 heads in the last chapter, and that dragon's here in this chapter as well. We see that dragon making his stand on the seashore. And the reason why the dragon is there on the seashore is almost like to introduce the first of the beasts. So the first beast comes up out of the sea, and this beast has 10 horns and 7 heads, and each of the horns has a diadem, which is like a little crown or a tiara. Sometimes that's known as that. And so there's the beast, the 10 horns, and each horn has a crown, 7 heads. The whole earth worshiped the beast because all of the power and authority that was rested upon the 7-headed dragon. Remember, we called him the dragon devil Satan from the last chapter. All that authority is then placed on the first beast, the beast that comes out of the sea, that is like a leopard with bear's feet and a lion's mouth. So far, kind of common, kind of what we've been looking at thus far, these descriptions of these creatures that are just otherworldly. And he doesn't usurp the dragon, but the dragon relinquishes all his authority onto the new beast that also has 7 heads, but 10 horns with the little diadems on it. For a period of time of, can anyone guess? Yeah, that's right, 42 months. Here it is again. 3.5 years, roughly 42 months, 1,260 days. That's our number. So he's been, it is now leading the people or ruling the world for this period of time. Everyone worshiped the beast. Everyone except those whose names were written in the book of life. That is code for the Christians, those who accepted Christ, that worship Christ under persecution. Because you see again that anybody that didn't worship the beast was killed by the beast. So the Christians were under persecution. The beast with the 7 heads. Remember, the dragon had 7 heads and the beast has 7 heads. So there's something about one of the heads. One of the heads had a mortal wound. Now that's an odd thing to put in here, like a mortal wound to one of the heads. One of the heads was mortally wounded, but is still alive somehow. And this, scholars think, relates directly to Nero Caesar, who was a ruler, a very famous ruler. I mean, you look up in the history books of Rome, the empire. He was an emperor, and he was very notorious for being unkind to Christians. And he was, in some Christians' minds, perhaps, dragon, devil, Satan. He was thought to have had a mortal wound and recovered from it. And so this is what we're looking, possibly recovered. They don't know if he recovered. You know, sometimes they can hide these kind of things from the hoi polloi, from the people. So scholars think this reference to this head that has a mortal wound but is still alive is Nero. And this is why they think it's Nero. It gets better. There's a second beast. So the first beast, I don't know why, maybe it's after the period of 42 months, there's a second beast. Now this beast looks different. They don't get a lot of description of this beast, but he has horns like a lamb, which I would imagine that would be like a male sheep with the horns that are round. But this beast has the voice of a dragon. It talks like a dragon with 2 horns. And has the authority that the dragon and the first beast also had. Has so much authority there that, in fact, this beast commands that an idol be built in the beast's honor, and then commands breath to be in the idol so that the idol is then able to talk and move. And anybody that does not worship the idol is killed. So this is where we see the persecution of Christians happening in the story, and this is a reference to that. So we're taking this different posture and looking at this in terms of what is happening in the first century in the Christian church that is underground, that is not legal, that no one, you take your life in your own hands if you want to be a part of the church. You're experiencing a lot of persecution, and all the apostles were ended up murdered. And this beast makes sure that, this beast has an idol and a beast. I don't know how it all shakes out, but it makes sure that you are marked. Remember how the people were sealed with God's seal, that they could survive and then God would protect them? Well, this is a different kind of seal, and it's the mark of the beast, and it can be on their right hands or their foreheads. And the mark of the beast is the numerical number of a name, and that's exactly the way John puts it in chapter 13. It's for those of you who know what the numbers represent, this is the numerical number of a name. And scholars believe that the name Nero Caesar in Hebrew is also this 666. This number represents Nero. it goes right back to Nero, who is also this mortally wounded head on the seven-headed creature. We have the people who have the mark. That's what the mark is, on their right hand and on their forehead. They cannot participate in commerce without the mark. So everybody is compelled to have the mark of the beast upon them. Except, and I would think that John would want those who have their names written in the book of life would not accept the mark of the beast. Of course they would be killed. Of course they would, if not killed, then at least marginalized from society because they are not able to participate in commerce without this mark on their hand or on their forehead. And that is where the chapter ends. It ends in the middle of this calamity. He says, let anyone who understands calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a person. So it's John pointing directly at Nero Caesar and saying, you're that beast. You're the one taking over the world and making everyone worship you, and you're not the one true God, and their names are not in the book of life, and unless they repent, they are going to perish. But what's happening in reality is all the Christians are perishing because they're being persecuted by Rome. And this is his response to that, leading this community that he's writing to, that is supposed to be spoken out loud in the worship service. People are just scribbling down and figuring out exactly what he means when he says, anyone that understands this can calculate this number. It's the name of a person. Nero Caesar, the baddest of the bad. So he gets to be the, I don't know which one he is, a seven-headed something or the one with the horns. It could be both. But he's referenced here twice in chapter 13, and there is no hope. It's just, if you are a good person and you follow God's commands, you're going to be killed by these evil people, and the rest of you are just going to go along with evil. That's how you end up. However, the underlying thing, once we've changed our posture towards the book, is that this is a message of encouragement to Christians in the underground that God's judgment will be visited upon their enemies in Rome. Have a beautiful day.